Hi, Heather here for Sew It Yourself. Today it's been snowing all day and I thought what a great day to do some snow dyeing. So we're going to do some snow dyeing and I'm going to do a test to see the difference between snow dyeing and ice dyeing. And I'm just going to show you a sample. I'm actually wearing a shirt that was ice dyed and I have another sample here. This is a sample that I did previously that was ice dyed. So I'm going to do some snow dye and some ice dye. I'll take you through the whole process and we'll see which way we like better. So just to let you know, I'm located in Fort St. John, BC, Canada, and today it is -18, which is like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So what better day to be inside doing snow dyeing than to be outside doing anything else? All right, we are ready to go. I have the fabric. It's all being soaked in sodium carbonate and water. The ratio is 1 gallon of water or 4 liters of water to 1 cup or 250 milliliters of sodium carbonate. It's best to put it in hot water and then it will actually dissolve really well. After that, it doesn't matter whether the water is hot or warm or cool while it's soaking. It just needs to be warm to get the sodium carbonate to dissolve properly. And one day we'll do the science on that. But meanwhile, I've also got my ice ready to go here. I've got some marking pins so I can tell which is which. I've got my dye. I've got purple on the brains, so I've got violet, purple, and imperial purple. And this is not a sponsored video, but these are Procyon dyes, and I have got them from Dharma Trading Company. Is that what it's called? Nope, sorry, these are Opulence. These guys are from Dharma. They're all the same dyes. It's just depends which company you get them from. I've got my snow ready to go, so we've got to get going here before it starts melting on me. So what I'll do is I'm going to pause and get the fabric in because I don't have a tripod for my cell phone at the moment, and I'll get it into the baskets and then I'll show you the next step. So I have the fabrics in the bucket, in the strainers, and you just need to find a basket or strainer that has some kind of opening on the bottom so all the excess fluid can drip out. And as you can see, I've got another cloth in the bottom, and I call these my slop cloths, and we're just going to see quite often they're as lovely as the fabrics that I'm actually dyeing. So on each of these I have put for the snow one, I've got white on a safety pin, a bead, and I've got a small one on the slop cloth, just so we can see what the difference is. And then on the ice one, I've got a big orange one on top and a little orange one on the bottom. And so again, we'll just see what kind of differences there are. Now we're simply going to layer the ice on top of this fabric and the snow, just one single layer. We don't want copious amounts of ice or snow on there, but just a nice even layer. I found these at a dollar store, in case you're wondering where I picked them up, and then these are just a regular bucket that you can get. Whatever you get, you need to have it so it goes down deep enough that it's not going to overflow. And then you also need it high enough that it's not going to be sitting in your liquid once it gets finished melting. So I will simply layer this on, and I think I have to turn you off again so I can do this with 2 hands, and then I'll show you what it looks like. I have a nice layer, even layer of ice. I like to try and make sure there isn't any fabric showing. And I can see just right there, there's a little piece, so I'm going to cover that with an ice. And I have a nice layer of snow on this side. So now the next step is we start sprinkling the dye on. And the easiest way is to use I've got actually knives, but just the round, the handle end of the knife, and you just pick up a little bit. Now some of these powdered dyes are clumpy, so sometimes you have to do just a snitch of stirring so you've got not so clumpy. And then you just want to, you're just going to use your finger and just tap it, and it will just tap off there. You want to put it kind of all over, but about that much. And then do the same on the other one. So we've got kind of a, we want them both to be kind of similar so we can see what the actual differences are. It's about the same amount. It's interesting. It's coming out pinker on this one than on the other one. And then you want to use a different knife for your next dye. So don't contaminate your dyes. You can see the pinks coming out in that. So all of these dyes are a mix of other colors, and those will show up as the dye goes through, as the snow and ice melts. You're going to get different colors showing up on your fabrics. So this one you can see has a lot more blue in it. That other one had some fuchsia in. And I'm trying to do about equal amounts of the dyes. I think the reason it looks like there's more dye on the snow one is because, sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing through the camera and doing this at the same time, is because it's totally flat. So it looks like there's a lot more dye on there than on the other one, but I have been trying to get about the same amount. Now I'm guessing the snow one is going to melt a lot faster, but we'll see. And again, about the same amount. There we go. And we're going to just leave it like that. Now this actually has to sit until it melts completely, so that will be, well, the next time you see, but for me it's going to be about 10 to 12 hours. It depends how warm your room is, etc. But it's fairly cool where I'm doing it, so I'm guessing about that long. Maybe 8 if we're lucky. Anyway, we'll see you shortly. It's been just about 2 hours now, and you can see that things have changed quite a bit. The ice cubes are still there, but they're melting quite a bit and there's not as much dye left on them. And the snow is just about all gone. And most of the dye has gone through onto the fabric, so that's kind of cool. And let's just see, for fun. So there's dye dripping in there. And not a lot on the fabric. I thought it would go through the fabric more, but anyway, we'll see how it looks later. Alrighty, it is the next morning, and I am ready to rinse these. And this one here was the ice dye, and this one here was the snow dye. Interesting. So all I'm going to do now, let's just have a quick look at the slop cloths. Oh yeah, there's some water in that one. This one, not so much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put both slop cloths together. And the initial first rinse, I'm actually going to rinse into the slop cloth and let it sit for a little bit longer. And what that will do is give a little bit more dye in the slop cloths and kind of mix them up a bit. So this is the snow again because we have the white bead on there. I'm just going to put these both kind of together and tip them. I'm going to take this snow one. Lots of dye on the bottom of that. I'm going to tip it upside down. And I'm going to squish these together just a little bit. And I'll deal with the rest of that in a second. I'm going to put these back. Guess I should put them back the way they were. And then I'm just going to do a quick rinse. And because I have such a small hot water tank in this, I'm going to use lukewarm instead of hot water, just so it will go a little bit further. It's interesting, what I see in the camera is much more blue than what it is in reality. There's a lot more pinky purple happening in real life, but whether it's because of the lights that I have in here or just the camera itself switching things, it's showing up as much more of a blue purple. Anyway, we'll start the rinse, and you can just see how much I'm going to do, and then just a quick rinse here to get that down in with the slop cloth or slop bucket. And then I'll move this one aside. Going to switch slop bucket or cloths, sorry. Let that drain into the old slop bucket, and then just going to do a quick rinse. This is the snow one again. It's going to go into there also. Finish our dye. I'll let that run through. Now I'm going to move this. I'll drain the rest of the slop from the snow dye and pour it in to our new slop bucket. And then I'll do a proper rinse on these. I am not going to videotape that because it's too hard to do with one hand. Alright, so I thought I would just show you this. I have somebody else holding the camera for me. So when I'm rinsing these off, I want to actually, there's always some powdered dye along the edges, so I want to rinse that into my slop bucket as well, because that's not spent dye, so it will adhere to our fabric because we've got the sodium carbonate already on the fabric. So I'm just going to do a quick rinse of all this excess dye here. I know it's kind of crazy, but I hate wasting any dye at all. So once I've got the edges done, let's go on to the next one. You can see that slop bucket's getting pretty full, but that's okay, because the dye will find the fabric. And we'll go on that one. So now we want to rinse the fabric, and we just want to try and rinse it till it runs fairly clear. You can do this in an actual bucket and do some squish rinse of it and then dump it, or you can run it with water. It depends how much water you have. So we're on a cistern, so sometimes I'll just do it in a bucket and let it sit for a bit, and the dye will just naturally come out on its own. And then I'll do a squish rinse on it. And when you've got it the water's running fairly clear, then we'll throw it in the wash. But I'll show you that in a minute. You going?
Yeah.
Alright, so here, this is running pretty clear. There's still a little bit of color coming out. Mostly fuchsia. Fuchsia's a bully. It just likes to go and go and go. It's hard to rinse the fuchsia out. But that's looking pretty spectacular. Until you get the final rinse, though, it's hard to know. what you actually have. So I try not to get terribly excited about it until after it's come out of the wash. But that's good. I'm happy with how much dye is coming out now. There's hardly any. So I think we'll go ahead and process this. Alrighty. So we let everything soak for a little bit longer. I let the slop bucket sit for about 2 hours. There's some of our fabrics in there. And then I rinsed everything again, including our original cloths, with just lukewarm water. I'm going to throw them in the washing machine. There's still a little bit of color coming out, but the Synthropol that we're going to use, which looks something like that, or there's another brand called TNA detergent, or apparently Blue Dawn works as well, but I haven't tried it. But basically what it does is it takes the excess dye and holds it in the water so it can't attach to any other fabric, and just takes all that excess dye out. And then the dye is pretty much set, and you don't have any problems with it running when you use it with other things. Now it takes just the smallest amount, and I'm going to see it. I have just a little bit of fabric in here, so like that is more than enough. Not even a capful for that much fabric. And you want to use a top load washing machine because you want lots of agitation and you want lots of water so that all that excess dye has some place to go. And I usually do, like this is a small, but I'm going to actually do this as a medium load so that there's extra water in there. Alright, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Alrighty, here we have it. They've come out of the washer. I've dried them a little and ironed them, and this is what we have. As you can see, it is snowing again today. So I'll explain which each one is. I still have the clips on. So this one is the snow dye. And as you can see, it's more large splotches. And then this next one is the ice dye, and you get a lot more crystallized, very fine features, defined lines, far more fine definition than this one. I mean, they both are amazingly beautiful, but slightly different. And then our slop cloths, this one is the slop cloth that was under the ice dye. And you can see it's got a lot of very cool colors coming up in it. And then this was the slop cloth that was under the snow dye. And interestingly, there's hardly any pink coming up, except, you know, a few little spots here and there. And interestingly too, the slop cloths, you actually get like powder dye spots happening in it. So you can see there's some actual powder dye spots showing up, where down in there as well, where the actual dye projects, I guess there are a few. When you look real close, there's some, but not as many for sure. And we have snowflakes showing up on them as well. Anyway, I'll give you an overall of the four, and there you have it, the difference between ice and snow dyeing. I hope you liked this video. If you do, give me a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe. I'll be doing more of these tests to see how things work, basically the science behind the dyeing. And if you have anything else that you're really wanting to know about, don't be scared to give me a comment or ask in the comments. I'd love to do videos that people are interested in. Thanks for watching.